My name is Ben Sylvan, and I am GM of Data Partnerships at the Trade Desk. I can't really see any of you. I have a lot of lights on my face, but I think you're out there, and I'm here. This is my first in-person ad week in just about 3 years, and a lot's changed in that time. Personally, I had a lot more hair last time I was at ad week. A year and a half of being quarantined with 3 kids under the age of 8 and working from home did that for me, but I think we're almost past the time where sort of quarantine jokes are funny, so that's the last one I'll make, and I'm done milking it. But besides sort of the lame, balding, and quarantine jokes, a lot has changed just in the way that we buy products, the way that we consume media. Retail media has grown tremendously in that time, right? A lot of it's fueled by the fact that the way we buy groceries, the way we buy any product has changed just tremendously in that time, right? I never heard of curbside pickup before COVID. I sure as heck didn't buy my groceries online. In that time also, streaming and connected TV has grown exponentially to the point where the two biggest giants in the space, right? So Disney and Netflix now have ad-supported tiers, or they will soon. So I'm obviously a sample of one, but I think my experience is pretty indicative of the rest of you, right? So my Sunday mornings are typically spent shopping for groceries on the kitchen table, deciding what to put in there. Well, my daughter streams Frozen for the 200th time. I just showed Kristi a picture of her. She's dressing up as Elsa for Halloween, if anybody wants to see the cutest little Elsa.
It is adorable.
It is adorable. Thank you. And then my 2 sons are watching Lego videos on YouTube, watching unboxings, which I don't understand, but they find super compelling. Then an hour or 2 later, we go to our Safeway. I'm not just a shill for these two, but we go to the Safeway, we do curbside pickup, and then we do a pit stop inside to buy whatever sugar, water, or cereal that my kids were duped into buying during their Lego videos from the ads they were seeing. But I think that's a pretty indicative experience of shopping and consuming media that is significantly different, at least for me, than it was prior to COVID. And a lot of that just leads to the growth of retail media, right? Retail media is all the rage right now. I mean, I think pretty much every room at this event is sponsored by a retail media network. We're in eBay ads room right now. There's Roundel, Albertsons is hosting a room. So it's become sort of the biggest pillar in advertising right now. Group M recently reported that retail media represents, I have to use my notes for this, 11% of global ad spend, and is forecast to grow 60% in the next 4 or 5 years. And in my job at the Trade Desk, I'm super lucky that I get to work with the most innovative retail media networks. Together, we build rich audience and measurement solutions to help brand marketers, which is a little bit different than retail media, but really brand marketers efficiently reach relevant buyers across the open internet, but also, more importantly, measure the effectiveness of our platform. And it's really hot in here, so I apologize for the sweat. But today I feel super privileged to be on stage with 2 of the OGs of retail media to discuss how retail media networks are helping the best brand marketers be even better. So please join me in welcoming Kristi Argyilan. Did I get that right? Argyilan. Oh my God, I'm embarrassed. Who leads the Albertsons Media Collective, and then Evan Hovorka, who leads product for the Albertsons Media Collective.
It's Hovorka. Just kidding.
That's what I said. Jeez. But yeah, please join me in welcoming them.
Thank you. It's really to the roasting of Ben Sylvan.
I know. Can you guys just start by telling me a little bit about yourselves, what you do at Albertsons, and what's changed most for you in the past 3 years since we were all together in person?
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So Evan Hovorka, longtime product builder in the retail space. Computer scientist by trade, but kind of fell in love with the concept of data and data-driven decisioning. And so I found my way to Target about 17 years ago and built marketing channels, product, and eventually retail media network products for Target brand, and then eventually Roundel. And for the last 11 months, I've been doing the same with Kristi over at the Albertsons Media Collective, which is the retail media network under the Albertsons umbrella. I love innovation, I love learning, I love new green space, so the fact that it's a startup inside of a huge company managed by very smart people, it was just like a natural fit for my role. So that's the job there, build compelling, performant products for a new media network.
Yep. So I'm Kristi Argyilan, and I've been at Albertsons Media Collective for about a year, a little over a year now. I grew up on the digital media side of the business and have always been someone who leaned into what's possible versus what we have, and to always try to find better solutions, especially for my clients, because there are still gaps in the marketplace. I mean, there's a lot of sophistication, but there's still things that can continue to get better. I got a call from Albertsons, and they were looking to in-house their retail media business that they had been outsourcing to an agency for several years. And so when I looked at the stats on the scale of Albertsons' business, it was easy to see that they should be one of the top 5 retail media networks, and they were really nowhere on the map. And so to have the opportunity to come in now at this stage of where retail media is, and kind of at the bottom of the hockey stick that Ben was referring to earlier, is just super exciting for me. So I've been kind of building the team. So there was a real great foundational team already at Albertsons. They do a lot of digital marketing, as you can imagine, a lot of digital engagement with our customers. And then to bring in a couple of new people to be able to really build out the capability so that we can move at the speed we need to move at. And most importantly for our clients, to really provide for them an untapped growth lever. Because Albertsons is a huge business, but they hadn't really been able to use retail media to drive their business because the capability wasn't sophisticated enough.
Yeah, so earlier this year we announced some capabilities that we're really excited about. The first is audience targeting, so being able to reach Albertsons buyers across the open internet. But now, like this quarter, we're launching a measurement solution where marketers are going to be able to run media across all the inventory that we run on the trade desk, including connected TV, and then work with Albertsons to understand whether or not that's driving sales in our platform or in their distribution center. And we're really excited about the way that you guys are thinking about solutioning. So with that said, obviously, retail media has become mainstream the past 2 years, but you've been in the game since it was still underground. So what kind of reactions did you get when you joined Target and you told people you were going to launch a media business at Target?
Yeah, it was actually already developing at Target. And my first role at Target was in charge of all media measurement, social, influencer. And what was happening is that as Target became more and more sophisticated on how to use their first-party data, there was this shopper marketing capability that was ready to be merged with a true data capability. And from there, rebranded as Roundel. It was originally, if you could probably find this easily online, Target Media Network. We rebranded it, we relaunched it, so it was there. All the DNA was already there. It was just a matter of putting it together in a clear, compelling way so that the clients, the vendors, could participate with it.
And Evan, what's changed since those days when you first started launching that platform?
Yeah, I think the understanding of what the industry was looking for was pretty opaque. So retail media networks would move forward with what they felt was best for the industry or what was best for their capabilities. Coming at it now with a new perspective, it's actually much cleaner. We just have to build in service of the customer, right? There's still some common patterns we want to adhere to, common methodologies, common publishers that we need to play through, or DSPs. But being in service of the customer versus having to think of the whole architect stack and kind of a vision first from the retail media network to client first, tell us what you want, has been a lot more, like, it's a stress relief, right? We don't have to have every piece of the strategy ironed out. We're in much more close partnerships with our CPGs, co-building that together, and then having a lot more autonomy with technologies like the trade desk, where we have flexibility, we can get the things we need back. And now it's much more collaborative, I guess, to sum it up in one word. There's more collaboration on the strategy, which you don't get from a lot of product, right? Big players just give you the product and you like it or you don't, or you hire people around it to service it. Mm-hmm. We can just navigate and fill the gaps that are there, avoiding the potholes of the RMNs that came before us.
What's really important for me too is the way that the executive offices of Albertsons really lean into this as an important business, not only so our clients can grow their businesses, but also so that, the benefits of a retail media practice and how it allows funding for a lot of the other transformation that Albertsons needs to make and is making. And it's interesting to see the C-suite really leaning into these businesses, and that makes it a whole lot easier to move really fast and to be nimble.
What are some of the learnings you've brought to the C-suite at Albertsons from your past experience at Target? Like, what are some of the key findings that you've taken to them and said, here's what we need to do this right?
Yeah, I think, we've been spending the last couple of months really listening to our clients in terms of what they're looking for. And the thing that is really interesting to me is they're kind of going all the way back to the basics, which is help me grow my business, help me know my customer better, and then you'll get the money that that a lot of merchants tell a client that they need to give to us. And so there is this, show us how you can drive our business, show us the performance, and the funding will follow. So it's been kind of interesting that somewhere along the way, I think retail media, because it's so hot, has fallen into a little bit of that trap of, and here, give me my 2%. And so there's just this really nice place that we are at Albertsons where it is about the partnership with vendors who we call our clients and making sure that they see the value in what we're doing and our ability to drive their business versus having it be a trade deal.
I'm going to go off script a little bit, but that reminded me about something that you said yesterday. So I apologize if this is going over the line, but you mentioned your clients. Where do buyers at Albertsons fit into the equation? You used a turn of phrase yesterday I really loved, and I hope you can kind of elaborate on how you think of suppliers versus the people who actually buy in your stores.
Yeah, I mean, so we have customers and we have clients. And our customers are the people that shop in our stores, and our clients are the vendors that we engage with. What is interesting, though, is in the Albertsons ecosystem, our merchants are actually the clients of the manufacturers, right? So when we meet with them, like a Kellogg's will be this wonderful host because their one of their biggest clients is coming, but to me, Kellogg's is my client. So there's this real interesting juxtaposition in how the relationships work. And so there are the customers that shop the store, there are vendors, and that's who the merchants meet with, and then those vendors are our clients. So it's kind of there are different roles and different types of engagements that we have.
Awesome. So you guys have talked a lot about the benefit of being a late mover into a crowded retail media space. Explain what that means, Evan.
Yeah, it's again, back to the making life easy. Knowing where to go and where to avoid potholes has been eye-opening. It's allowed our engineering team to be much more nimble and our product teams to be more nimble and just focus on the things that generate the most feedback. I think products always led with a test and learn philosophy. But when you're not burdened with decisions from the past and commitments to products that maybe were made under good decisions of data that was available 7 months ago or 7 years ago, we're starting with a fresh slate. It just makes that test and learn process so much more flexible and quick. So the late mover advantage for us is we know where there's good partnerships, we know where our empathetic builders are out there, we can find them, like Ben, and we just go there first. So it just skips a lot of the steps that add friction and add confusion in the market, because there's just, there's a lot of players in the space, but not all of them are good fits for the different assets that each retail media network brings to market. So knowing that in advance has allowed us to move pretty quick.
And we joke about it. If you have a lot of legacy systems, you end up with the Frankenstack, right? Which is you kind of have to make do with what's there because the amount of work and investment you have to make to switch some old things out is that it's very material. And a company like Albertsons that's been going through such a significant transformation, we have a lot of, it's in a new computing world. It's with the best solutions that are out there right now. We think about data management in a world where maybe it will be blockchain someday. And so you can imagine those now as we're designing our systems and launching our systems now. And so that is absolutely an advantage to being a late mover.
Awesome. One of the things I've really enjoyed about working with you guys is sort of your just approach to solving real business problems that marketers are facing, right? In our conversation last night, you used the turn of phrase, like, we want to earn our dollars. We don't want to just, expect them to come to us. What are some of the unique ways that you guys think you can earn those dollars from marketers? What are some of the ways that they can use your data assets that will make, or your data assets, so they want to come and work with you?
Yeah, it starts with leaving egos and opinions at the door, and that door is the entrance to our internal product conversations, our leadership conversations with Kristi in the C-suite, but more importantly with our vendors and our partners. And it doesn't mean we're exposing trade secrets or giving access to data that people shouldn't have access to, but it's meaning we're not going into the meeting with preconceived notions or opinions on what's going to work best. Letting the product shine brightest for what the client wants has been such an eye-opener for us. I would say the process of bringing product to market too with a modern take has brought a lot more, I guess, players to the space that have the same empathy and the same vision that we have. So, leading with empathy, leading with compassion, which I guess is the counterpart to leaving ego at the door, attracts the right kind of people that want to build with that type of mentality. So the type of talent we've brought in at the top and the building level has been game-changing. I've not seen anything like it, and that includes the engineering team, to the trafficking team, to the product team. And when you have that type of mentality, everything else just becomes easier because the goal is to make things frictionless, make things work for the customer. And it's a funner place to build, and it's a place to build that I think our customers see as more valuable, more welcoming, and we're seeing that come through with our client councils and our feedback from our customers. So that's probably been the biggest win for.
And to add more layers to that, and it goes back to the late mover advantage too. So we're not over revving on ROAS because nobody really cares about that anymore. So, we're leaning into incrementality and how do we actually build a measurement capability that is open in its architecture where it can plug into the marketing mix and the measurement stacks that our clients have, versus us doing, here's your ROAS for a 6-week flight. Like, where does that get you? So, we're doing a lot of work in measurement. You'll continue to hear the ways that we're leaning into measurement and trying to push the agenda forward so that you can actually, and this is the work that we're doing with you, so that you can actually bring retail media into the broader marketing conversation, which is where all of our clients are now. Shopper marketing and brand marketing are all coming together. Brand marketing is expected to be also a high performer. It always has been. And retail media, especially with the databases that we're sitting on top of, provide a really great solution in a media world where a lot of big partners are struggling, and or a lot of the data that we're used to using as digital marketers is going to come out of the marketplace.
Another observation after working with you guys for going on a year, for what it's worth, our partnership started in this guy's garage about a year ago. We had a whiteboarding session in his garage. He smoked some meats for us, some fish, and we just started whiteboarding. So we've come a long way, and it's really exciting to be here with you guys, because that was pretty much a year ago next month. I was going to say this week, but I think it was early November of last year. But one of the observations is you guys have been really focused on supporting the open internet, but specifically offsite, right? So obviously onsite is really important for you, but offsite has been a big focus for you guys and sort of your product strategy. Why has that been such a focus for you?
Yeah, I can take it first, and Kristi can fill in where I'm incorrect.
I'll enhance your answer. You're never wrong.
Phase one for retail media is pretty simple, right? It's on-site optimization. You've got your search, your display, and then usually some ancillary products like email, content, or landing pages. So it's some combination of that comes together and defines what you're going to go to market with. That quickly becomes saturated, right? If you're doing a decent job, that's going to be sold out, either through auction or audience-based or of fixed bid. And then what, right? That is the most lucrative piece of the puzzle. The people are low funnel. You own the publisher inventory, so there's low cost. And really, a lot of the ad tech is under your control, so data doesn't have to leave the four walls. So investment cost and payout are the best they're going to be in that phase one, which is fantastic, but it's also the phase in which we need to learn the most. So now these teams are learning to be ad ops people, traffickers, our creative teams are under pressure. So it's also a big period of growth. Once that wraps and moving into phase two, when you realize like I need more scale, I need to find inventory and find my audiences off platform, then introduces the concept of partnering with a DSP, a social platform, a CTV partner, and finding those people elsewhere to grow that scale. For us, that came pretty quickly. We did a good job selling. We have more work to do on our site and app to grow the ad placements and the relevancy, but we had to move off platform pretty quick. Moving off platform, I would consider that phase 2. You still want to bring that audience and that high accurate data to market, because that's why we're here, right? We're not just a marketing agency. We have to transact on the value of our data. So then you're partnering with ID onboarders, DSPs that can allow transparent measurement to come back to the collective, and that's the phase we're in right now. So it's growing there, finding the right partners where we can get transactions and transparency, and then figuring out what we're going to do for phase 3, which we can talk about next year.
Indeed. I mean, for me, the open web is the one place that hasn't really been leveraged fully, especially versus the walled gardens. And it's the reason why, we work together, right? Because philosophically, we're trying to accomplish the same thing. We know that our greatest assets sit in our data and in the way that we can use that data to measure. It doesn't necessarily sit in media inventory. And certainly we have our own inventory through all of our own assets, but there's so much more that you can do when our audiences can be brought to the media buys that everyone else is doing. And so that's a lot of the work that we're doing, which is try to raise the bar on what you can do in the open web by marrying a lot of the identity work that you're doing with our audiences and really push the open web in a way that it can be a much richer marketing experience than it has been in the past.
Yeah, just double clicking on measurement. We've touched on it a few times, but what role do you think, Kristi, a retailer like Albertsons can play in measuring open web, ad buys, holding platforms like the Trade Desk accountable, even for national ad buys? So not an Albertsons buy, but an overall buy. What role do you think you guys can play in that space?
Yeah, I mean, we are only as limited as the things that we sell in our stores. It doesn't mean that we couldn't append our data at some point and know if one of our customers, or a group of our customers went and bought a car or built a model of a car. But for now, what we can do is that we can take open web, we can understand where 106 million adult consumers, whether or not they're going to the grocery store and buying something. We see our customer base on average about 2.5 times a week. So the frequency is really high. We know a lot about these people. You can get an indication of, even with different audiences, what's important to them based on what they're buying in terms of groceries and things like that. So there's a ton of insight and a ton of proof of performance that we can do, that it actually drove sales, especially for CPGs and the other products that we sell in our stores. We have pharmacy, things like that. Eventually, we want to get to a place where we can then talk about non-endemics.
Yep.
And, do we sell cars? Do we help drive the travel? There are lots of other categories that we can lean into, especially as we get more and sophisticated and start to work with other partners who also have really good databases that allow us to build even richer audiences.
I'm excited to get to that point, but for now, I'm really excited to allow advertisers to be optimizing towards sales signals, right? Understand what time of day is most effective at driving sales in Albertsons stores, what publishers are most effective, what audiences are. I think that's a great first step.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just add that one really quick,
do.
Ben. It's the frequency of that too, right? There's a lot of systems out there, a lot of companies out there that have some form of relationship with the customer. It's a point in time, it's a scanned receipt, it's a ride in a car, and that begins.
It's a delivery of
yeah,
groceries,
it's a delivery.
Right?
So that's a point in time. Ben now, fantastic, and he bought some green and white sneakers, and that was a point in
cool.
time. They are very.
Is that
cool.
green Ben?
Thank you.
Nice work.
I thought you guys were going to roast me.
It's coming, just wait. It's coming. The journey beyond that and before that, though, which is really where the sophisticated CPGs want to go, what are the predictive analytics that get him there? What was the price point that drove him to buy those shoes? And how is he going to buy that second pair or ancillary products like athleisure wear? That comes from frequency and depth of relationship. So first party is important. First party plus frequency is beautiful. But then first party plus frequency plus depth of transaction, that's the golden goose egg, and that's why RMNs are kicking a lot of ass. If you get into the one-off and the delivery piece of it, you're getting pieces of the puzzle. that stories are hard to carry over to the next conversation, right? You're waiting for them to show up and do the same thing again. So you have one little sliver into the relationship with that customer. When they're in the store 2, 3, 4 times a week buying large swaths of product, which a lot of our RMNs can bring to market, it's beautiful, right? That first party data is great, but it still needs to be refreshed. Those cookies, those devices, our people have 4 or 5 different devices. It's still, there's still some fidelity across that. So the more often we see that, the more often we can make record of it, the better we can tell the full story for that customer.
You know, to go along with that, though, before you get too far off that point, not all RMNs have that quality of data, and I think it's important for the audience even to understand what data does a retail media network actually truly have access to, and do they get the full spectrum? There are several of us that do, but not all do.
Yeah, ask those tough questions, because the truth lives in that CRM system. What's the percent of transactions at the store that tie to a CRM record? What's the percent of that CRM record tying to digital IDs? And what's the find rate of those digital IDs out in the places where your media is running? That would be the equation you should ask every RMN that you talk to.
Yep.
And the historical data that you have is the data that's going to be best at predicting next purchase behavior, right? So it's great to be able to target people based on what they're buying today, but brands want to be able to predict who are the next buyers. And so how far of a look back you have is extremely important.
Yes.
To ask retailers.
Yes.
We only have 3 more minutes, but I want to touch on one other big trend that we're seeing is the rise of buying TV programmatically, right? Connected TV. This is only going to intensify as Netflix introduces its ad-supported tier. Disney continues to lean into that. Kristi, let's start with you. How can brands incorporate retail data into their CTV strategy?
And Evan and I, this has been some of our work we've been trying to crack for a while. I mean, we are really getting to a good place when you can start to bring these kinds of audiences and this kind of measurement to television. And the easiest entree is connected TV, then streaming, as we can understand what the ad insertions are like for streaming. But imagine buying against an audience of, say, people who are buying allergy medicine at this time of year versus women 25 to 54. It gets so much richer, and then we can measure that we actually drove the sale. And that just doesn't exist in a holistic way for television the way that it can now. Connected TV it's growing like a rocket ship. It's the only thing that's growing faster than retail media. And when you bring those two things together, suddenly television is held to a level of accountability that's been hard to do, until now. I will also say it doesn't stop with connected TV. There's no reason why linear TV can't get there too. And I think it's a great entree for an NBCU and a Disney to do this through connected TV and the programmatic TV that they have. And all of the connected TV options that we have, but eventually we should be able to hold that kind of performance aspect to all television.
Anything to add, Evan?
I concur.
You concur? If we were to build audiences in a clean room, fulfill the retail data to buy connected TV, you can bring all of the 3 sort of buzzwords in our industry together, right?
You can. Hand trick.
Well, awesome. I think we're at time, but thank you guys so much for joining me on stage, and thank you all for being great participants.